Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Krista, the Executive Director of the Old Stone House Museum in Brownington. Welcome to the show, Krista.
Thanks so much for having me back.
This is your second time in just a very few months. It was great to have you on last time. I don't know, was that an hour show or not? Because I think we could probably have a marathon here because we both love local history so much.
Oh, for sure. I think we ended up recording like a two-parter kind of back to back. I think we were supposed to only do one and then we ended up doing two. So
Right. So we're going to keep this one at half an hour, but who knows? You might be back on someday this year.
Yeah.
So you have a lot going on at the Old Stone House. Particularly coming up is Old Stone House Day.
Yes, absolutely. So Sunday, August 17th is our big annual blowout event. It's Old Stone House Day, and this being an extra special Old Stone House Day because it is our 100th anniversary at the museum. The museum has been a museum for 100 years, and so this is really kind of our like birthday celebration, if you will. As I've been saying to everybody who will listen, it's a great year to visit us at the Old Stone House, and if you can't make it any other day, Old Stone House Day is a great day to come.
Oh, it would be great. I wish I knew it was the 100th birthday. It would have been great if you'd put a call out to all the centenarians out there and had them converge on Old Stone House Day. And not only could the Old Stone House have a 100th birthday, but you could have some of those people who were fortunate or unfortunate to make it to the 100-year-old mark.
We did talk about it too, and it's just a matter of like people and workload. We didn't have anybody to really, unfortunately, be able to kind of take on the project and make those invites. But it was something that we talked about doing, and I wish we had time and the ability and the capacity to pull it off. But we still have a lot of great things planned. So
here's a question to you. Do you want to live to as old as the Old Stone House, as in it being a museum 100 years old?
Not at all. No, my retirement plan is to die young. So I really don't want to live to be 100. I'm cool with like maybe 60s. I would be okay with getting out around the 60s.
Hold up there. Yeah, that's hitting kind of close to home. I'm 60.
That's just me personally. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm just saying for me personally.
No. I know what you mean. The one person I interviewed, she was either 103 or 104, and she just, she loved life, but she did not like the fact that she outlived all of her kids, and two of them had lived to be in their 80s. So there is the downside. My idea of old changes with every year. I once thought 60 was the end of time, but you know what? There's still a lot more life to live. Okay, so Old Stone House Day, what is it going to entail this year?
Well, I was going to say too, I also think 60 is the new 50. So, I think with time as well, longevity sciences make it a lot more pleasant to live into the older ages. So maybe I'll change my mind too. But
I'll send you a video of me yesterday on my mountain biking trail, going along ledges and everything, and see what this old guy can do.
For sure. So I'm sorry, I did forget your question. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss saying that part. But
Right. So what's going to be going on at Old Stone House Day this year?
Oh yes. So we have a lot of great stuff planned. Some of it is going to be traditional things that our regular visitors who come for Old Stone House Day would expect, to include the full open house of the museum. And so this is one of the rare days of the year that we actually get to open the whole building up and let people wander about. Typically, when you come to see us on any other day when we're open, you can access the building through a guided tour, and that's through, kind of safety regulations that we have to follow due to the age of the building. And so, being able to come for a full open house, all 4 floors will be open to explore. And then we're also introducing a new activity this year called a farm tour relay, where adults and children are both going to be invited to participate in a bit of a relay race where they'll have to do, kind of typical Vermont farm chores like stack some wood, and also some historic throwbacks like wash clothes, hang them on a line, things that some of the kids that we've been piloting this through our children's program have been, it's been a really great time. Lots of laughs, and especially for the kids who have maybe never experienced some of these chores the old-fashioned way. Another good return is always a crowd favorite is our kind of somewhat famous pie auction. And the thing I really love about our pie auction, which all of the proceeds go to support the museum, but also a lot of those pies, people come, we have extensive berries. We have so many berries and apples and veggies that we give out of our giving garden. And so people will come to the museum, they'll pick their berries and they'll pick their apples and they'll go home and they'll bake them into a beautiful pie and bring it back for the auction. So it's really a very like community central full circle feeling. So that's always a big crowd favorite as well. So, and we'll be this year being able to sell some of the pies by the slice, which is a bit of a change from last year's. And so that'll be nice for folks who don't want to commit to a full pie. You can also get pie by the slice this year.
So back to the relay race. You're not going to have to. The participants, are they going to have to milk a cow?
They're not going to have to milk a cow, but I believe there is a part where there is a bit of a pig herding. But there's a bit of a surprise to that, twist to that. So I don't want to give away too many of our secrets that we have too for the day.
You're not going to have cow plot bingo, are you?
No, we won't be having that this year.
Good. I got to admit is that's I won't call it a pet peeve of mine, but I could think of better activities.
I could feel that.
So is this? I can't recall. Is Old Stone House Day free or is there a fee?
There is a bit of a fee we charge by the car, and so there's an early bird $10 per car ticket, which is available now on our website oldstonehousemuseum.org. So you can get your early bird $10 for your car ticket now. If you show up on the day of, it will be $15 for the car. Members to the museum though are always allowed in for free, and we have a new membership program that you can also check out on the website, and with different kind of membership levels between individuals as low as $20 and then family membership and a little bit beyond that. We also have a NARM membership that lets you, NARM stands for North American Reciprocal Museums, and
Right.
that gives you access to thousands of museums across the country, discounts and free admission and that sort of thing. So we're part of that program as well. So members can also come in for free, yes.
Right. Is this your first year as the executive director for the Old Stone House Day, or was last year your first?
So technically, yes and no to both of those. Last year for Old Stone House Day, I was interim director when the director was on leave, and then this year is my first year, kind of officially permanently in the ED role. And so this will be my kind of second year overseeing. But last year I thought it was only temporary, and this year I now know it's not temporary.
Right. Okay. And when is it being held?
Sunday, August 17th.
So are you having music? Are you having anything like that?
Yep, we'll have music provided by Eileen Baker, and so she did the music for us last year, and she's coming back with her group, and she'll be our live entertainment for the day.
Hey, just out of curiosity, I can think of you have like 3 or 4 former directors there that have filled your shoes. Some go back. I don't know if Reed Sherrington, is he still with us? But do they ever come back to see what's going on at the Old Stone House there on this day?
Oh, for sure. Not only on Old Stone House Day, but they are several of them are regular faces. And so Molly, who was the most recent previous director, who hired me, she is still working for us. She's now our special projects manager, and so she's just moved into a role that makes more sense for her, or for her family, and is a better fit for her schedule now. And then Peggy Day Gibson, another former executive, she is a very regular member of our buildings and grounds committee, and so she's a very common face to find there on Wednesdays, and so I see her quite often. And every so often I will run into a few of the others, so there's a nice longevity of people who have stayed connected even after they are sort of no longer serving the museum anymore in that capacity.
Great. Let's give a little update with who you are, and because you are a homegrown person. So
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I was born in Derby, so I'm from Derby, but I grew up right on the border where Derby and Brownington meet, so I was, a stone's throw from the Old Stone House most of my life. I did go away for about a decade or so, a little over. I lived in a couple different states and worked at several different museums across the country. And when I made the decision to come home, it really was a funny full circle moment for me because growing up in conversations I would have had with my family about my choice of degree being anthropology, and what are you going to do with that. And I used to say, well, I can work at some place like the Old Stone House, right? Because it was my best example, local
yeah,
example. And I never expected it to actually come to fruition. But boy, talk about, planting a seed.
right. Yeah, no, that worked out. That worked out great for you and for the community. The one thing I've told you before, it seems just so natural that the Amish decided to settle right around your museum, because it's almost like they're reenactors of the days of Alexander Twilight.
Yeah, it is a really interesting kind of atmospheric change to Brownington too. That was one of the things that I found really surprising when I moved back because that happened really while I was gone. That Brownington had such a kind of boom in Amish population, and it's been interesting because we often talk about like the full sensory experience of the Old Stone House. When you visit Brownington where we are, it's unique in the sense that it's a historic village, but it's not a manufactured historic village. Like we didn't bring in buildings from all over the place and put them to look like an old town. That is what Brownington looked like in the 1830s. There is a a continuity to the preservation of this is what it looked like, this is where the buildings were, and this is what the buildings, how they were built. So it's a little bit different than some of the other, more like popular or nationally recognized historic villages where a lot of those buildings were built to look old or were moved in from varying locations. And so we often talk about it feels like you're going back in time when you come to the Old Stone House Museum. And it's been popularly said as well that it sounds like you go back in time because our neighbors, instead of having tractors running and tending their fields with machinery, they're doing it with horses and they're doing it with 19th century implements. And so you can hear the quiet ticking of field rakes and hay rakes in a way that you don't. I live next to a hay field at my house. It's a very different sound doing it the modern way versus doing it the 19th century way, right?
So you also have another sizable event coming up, or a notable event, and I'll let you talk about it.
Sure, yeah. So another exciting thing that we're doing this year as part of our 100th anniversary is we are actually hosting a traveling Smithsonian exhibit. And so that exhibit is part of Smithsonian's Museums on Main Street series. And we've partnered with Newport Downtown Development as well as Vermont Humanities and New Hampshire Humanities to bring that to downtown Newport. And that will be in the NEK Tasting Center. It's going to open August 25th and it will run through September 28th. It's called Crossroads, Change in Rural America, which it felt so very apropos to have that hosted right on Main Street in Newport, a location that the exhibit really talks about changing main streets in rural
Yeah,
America.
and I don't think it's any secret that, well, first of all, Newport was once a bus and railroad community, and railroads USA, they really dwindled down, and Newport really felt the impact of it, a series of things, including the interstate. And yeah, Newport is certainly at a crossroads now, and trying to figure out how to move forward.
Yeah, it's really kind of very interesting when you travel from like Brownington to Newport. If you do this all in one day, you really get to see 2 centuries of change of downtowns because Brownington used to be the booming downtown economy center. It was part of the stagecoach trail that led from, Boston to Montreal. And so, in order to get from those two big urban hubs, you would have traveled right through Brownington. And so, Brownington during the 1800s was what big Main Street looked like. And then you see as railroads come in and those railroads take you to towns like Orleans and Newport, the architecture of that time takes over. And that's where the new economic hubs are. And so it's kind of a fascinating 200 years of change that you can explore just in your own local backyard, 10 to 15 minutes away, depending on, which road you take to get
You know,
there.
just us talking here made me think about something, because I realized that the interstate system, USA for that matter, but say the Northeast Kingdom, uh, changed us. It changed us both for the good. You can get in and out a lot quicker. That was a good thing, but it was also a bad thing at the same time. It's like, um, the the interstate actually bypassed, uh, bypassed Newport. A lot of people look at different things at the demise of the boom times of Newport. They look at it differently. I look at it as the interstate certainly played a huge role in its downturn because the interstate bypassed it. But then thinking about what you said about the railroad, and that's kind of true too, though, is except for communities like Newport, Martin, Orleans, North Troy, they really, they boomed because of the railroad. But
Mhm.
then there was like Irisburg, which was once the county, what is it called? Well, basically, it's where the courthouse was and everything. They didn't get a railroad, and despite Irisburg being this wonderful little quaint community, didn't it didn't boom like it would have if it had gotten the railroad. And
Yeah,
Brownington,
Yeah, no,
but
100%. Transportation technology changes is actually one of the themes. So in Crossroads Change in Rural America, they talk about kind of the varying factors that create these changes, these, pressures on these communities, and transportation technology is a huge one from stagecoach to railroad to the interstate.
yep. So how is this like? Is this like a timed event? Is this like on one day and there's going to be speakers, or is this something you go in and view?
Both. So we do have an opening reception planned for that August 25th opening date. That opening reception will be from 5 to 7, and we'll have speakers there sort of, reminiscing about local history and the changes that they've experienced in their lifetime living in the kingdom. And then we'll have a closing reception on September 28th, and that will also be kind of a twofold event. It will not only be our closing reception, but it will also be our celebration of Alexander Twilight Day, which is technically September 23rd, but because of just the way calendars work, it was a little bit easier for us to do that celebrating on the weekend instead of on the day of, which would have been a Tuesday and a day that we're not usually open at the museum. And so we'll have speakers there again from 11 to 1. And otherwise, the museum will be open for the public to explore on their own and visit on their own schedule, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
So how is the Old Stone House involved in this event?
So we are the host for it. It was actually kind of I'll be totally transparent. It was a bit of a logistical decision. We were supposed to be hosting it at the museum. It was going to be in the old stone house, but the actual size of the exhibit, we didn't have the ceiling clearance to fit it in certain places, and so I started looking for other locations that we could partner with that would fit it better for just straight up the size of it. And that's when it seemed to me like an obvious thing to reach out to Newport. Again, being a local kid, and even in my own lifetime, seeing all of the changes that Newport has faced, it was just such an appropriate exhibit for that main street in particular. Really, at any of the main streets, but certainly Newport also has some empty buildings that were, or empty-ish buildings that were large enough to hold the exhibit. And so when I first reached out to Newport Downtown Development, the NEK Tasting Center was like kind of between tenants. They didn't really have any, we didn't know if we were going to be sharing the space with anyone else. There are some other businesses now that are in there as well, which are great inclusions to have. And so they'll be there as well, helping to support our receptions, including the Flaky Crust and the Witch's Brew and Eden Ciders. And so yeah, so that's kind of why it ended up not actually being at the Old Stone House.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Now, are they using any of? Because I know the Old Stone House has a great repository of Richardson photo, Harry and Alice Richardson. Are any of those going to be on display?
So we do have a new exhibit at the Old Stone House Museum this year. It's in one of our barns called Picturing the Past, and that has photos from several of our collections, including the Richardson series, and that's on display right now in Brownington. And we're going to have a kind of a duplication of that photo exhibit at the Smithsonian exhibit on Newport as well. So yes, there will be photos from the local downtowns, from most of the towns, maybe not all of the towns in the kingdom or in Orleans County, but most of the towns will have photos as well to complement the Smithsonian's show.
Boy, Orleans County, particularly the Newport Derby region, we're certainly lucky to have Harry and Alice Richardson because they recorded so much of our landscape. I believe it was from the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. I might have the dates I put in them, but I don't have the dates in front of me. But they and their family reported so much history.
Yeah, it really is just a rich archive of imagery, and so we've been very excited to install the Picturing the Past exhibit this year, and so far the visitors, especially local folks, have been really enjoying it. So I encourage people who want to sort of do the reminiscing photo tour to come either to the Old Stone House. For the rest of this summer, we're going to close for the season on October 12th. Although our children's programs run all winter, the campus does shut down due to the weather and the snow when it comes. So if you don't get a chance to see it while it's here in Newport at the Smithsonian, you can still see it until October at the Old Stone House Museum itself.
This is a hard question. I didn't ask you. It just came to my mind. But every one of the executive directors that I know brought something to the museum that was they helped build upon it. Everyone, whether it be Peggy, and she's most notably remembered for being spearheading the move to bring the old school, the grammar school, I believe that was it, up to where it used to be, and she really consolidated the old center right there, what makes up the old Stonehouse district. And then Molly took programming and she really focused on programming because she no longer had to focus on the actual structure of the village. And what have you brought to it so far?
So for me, I think, as I call it, my bias. So I was a collections manager by training, and so my passion for museum work is has always been really object focused, and so I have a lot of ambitions for what we can do to improve the collections and to improve the preservation conditions of the collection. A lot of the buildings are not necessarily adequate for long-term storage of a lot of our resources. We some are, there has been some great work done to install like an archival vault with proper climate controls. We also have another really great space that is like primo, storage conditions. And so coming in and bringing in a lot of that collections based object preservation, chemistry, science, I say that's the stuff that I'm really focused on. I think for the next 5 years is what can we be doing to better the long-term preservation of these 75,000 objects and archival materials that we care for.
Yeah, and I think, I think I've talked to you about this before. At some point, very possibly you're going to have to contemplate how are we going to preserve electronic photos, because those are going to be, you know, if those aren't preserved in some format, this new technology of photos, those won't be preserved for the future generations.
Oh, 100%. And digital asset management, as the jargon term, calls it, is its own beast. Every object type has its limitations, it has its weaknesses, it has its strengths. People take for granted that new technology is always an improved technology and that digital is forever, and digital is not forever. In fact, it's in some ways a lot more sensitive and a lot more ephemeral than even hard medias are. And so as people moved into, like DVD burning and USB things, file formats go out of date. Floppy disks. Where can you use a floppy disk anymore? CD-ROM drives are going away, and the disks themselves can be. There's a thing called disk rot, and so there's this whole kind of line of learning called inherent vice, which is how objects break themselves apart based on just how they're manufactured, and that's the stuff that I can get really really nerdy about. And so yeah, for sure, digital asset management and understanding how to keep digital records alive for as long as paper records. It's its whole beast unto itself to tame.
So we only have a couple more minutes left. What are your final thoughts, final words, or final plans?
Yeah. Well, I would be remiss to not mention in the final moments here with you that we are also launching a giving campaign this year called 100 for 100. And so what we are asking from our community is if they can to give a symbolic $100 or any amount that is meaningful, because every dollar counts towards the anniversary of our museum being 100 years old. That takes an entire community to do. Museums are a physical embodiment of human tenacity to fight time and to save their story. And this story took, or I should say took, an entire community to keep for 100 years. And we want to see it go for another 100 years. And I don't have to belabor, most of our audience probably is aware of the changing world of public funding and, just expenses are changing, and it takes a whole village to take care of this village. And so our 100 for 100 campaign is going to be running to the end of the year and is just asking our community to consider making a donation if they're able to the Old Stone House Museum this year, to hope that we can continue offering the high quality children's programs that they have come to expect from us over the last several years. Most of those were very heavily, if not all, grant funded, and those grants are not guaranteed anymore. And so, neighbor to neighbor for 100 years, we're hoping that our community can help us with our 100 for 100 campaign.
Well, that is a wrap. It was great having you on. As I said, we could put on a marathon session. In all honesty, I do believe we could do a 24-hour segment, and we wouldn't even have to stop, other than for just whatever. But I really think we could. And but for now, we'll keep it at half an hour. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for all you're doing at the Old Stone House. And it was a delight, as always, having you on.
Yes, thank you for having me. And one very final thing, if you miss us in August, we're still going to have our 4th annual Fiber Fair this September 20th. And so there's still more to come for the rest of the season. So do check out our website and come give us a visit here at the Old Stone House Museum in
Okay.
Brownington.
Thank you. And thank you to
Thank you.
the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.